Incoming transmission from the future, Vancouver AI Community Meetup.
Kush is coming up here to give a talk about how he thinks about AI. A lot of us think we know what AI is. We even talk about it like as a person or a thing, but it's this whole series of processes and stuff. And so, Kush, I welcome you up here with your laptop to take 10 minutes and blow our minds about AI and what's really going on with next token prediction and what's going on under the hood, bro.
15, right? No, I have to be inside. I didn't name myself right? You know, by the way, since I have time.
First debate of the evening.
This is not me. This is Chris's fuckery with AI. That's not me.
It's mostly you.
That is not my hair.
Kind of.
And honestly, beyond my hair, there were shoes involved.
I don't see any shoes.
Those were not my shoes. These are my shoes, you know? Just saying. So my name is Kush. I'm a software engineer for the most part. Not that I'm allowed to be. I didn't study that. My background is film and visual effects and also industrial design. So, designing furniture and stuff. Not that I've done that either professionally. I just learn things and then I, don't go into them as jobs. And somehow I survive in Vancouver. Not really sure how. Once in a while, someone just comes around and gives me an app or something to build. And then, there's still roof over my head still. So anyway, enough about me. That was supposed to be the About Me slides, that I do a few things. So today I'm here to talk about, initially what I was talking about with Chris, a few different things I wanted to explore. But one of them that I landed on was search and how embeddings work, right? But when I was talking about embeddings to Chris, as well as thinking about how to explain that, I thought maybe I should go back into the history of search. How has it evolved over the course? I love a history lesson. I love when people sort of give me a lowdown on how things went and what happened, etc. But then as I was doing that, and it was like, oh, search has come so far, I was like, well, you know what? It still sucks. And that's not like a epiphany. I know, I feel it every single day. It fucking sucks. And so I was like, you know what? I think I have to also address that even with all this stuff, it still sucks. So the talk is in two parts. First, I'm going to talk about the history of search, the evolution of it, and then I'm going to talk about why it still sucks. So, all right. So let's go into it. So the evolution of search, big grand title. All right. So initially, let's say even. Let's just say we have this data set, right? We have this data set of around 25 movies. I've just put them all here. Some of the movies that I've watched. Die Hard is in there. Shitload of Men. And they're in three genres: dark comedy, action, and sci-fi. And we'll look into why that is in a moment. We wanted to search something in this data set, right? So let me also get out my phone so I have some sense of how much time I have, so I don't get cheated out of it as well as not go over it. So I want to search this data set. One of the ways that I could do it is perhaps alphabetically sorted, then go, depending on the character Z or D or whatever, try and do that binary search in my mind. How did people figure out how to search items, in libraries and so on, long time ago? Well, even 2000 BC, I believe, we had people cataloging in libraries. Library of Alexandria famously has scrolls categorized based on topics. So even back then, and certainly, even with 1605, there's, I think it's Francis Bacon, or whatever it was, but there's explorations of taxonomies, etc. And so manual classification, one great way of trying to find content in a large catalog. Of course, right now I only have 25 movies or whatever, but you can imagine, 25 million or something. Certainly Amazon products or whatever might be a billion, possibly. So, okay, so let's classify these things. I've now classified them into my database in such a way that I have three different genres in which they are categorized, as well as I have a ability to sort it. So that helps as well. If I want to look for the sort of oldest movies within the sci-fi categories that are in my library that I've purchased or something, I can go ahead and see Matrix is in there. Maybe I feel like watching that. Maybe I feel like watching Moon. I love Moon. So possibly, right? That's a good way to explore the data. This is some form of search. You're searching for information that you want. You may not know exactly what it is, but certainly you have some information about it, genre, etc. Okay, well, time passes by. People realize Well, by the way, there, of course, the clustering or the categorization of these genres is still a bit too rigid. Sometimes we may not have a movie that's just a comedy. It might also be a comedy sci-fi, or it might be something like that. So we could, of course, do multiple, but to demonstrate that idea, I explored another vector, which is themes. So themes can apply to multiple movies. A movie can have multiple themes. So let's say if I look for movies about greed, we see Parasite is in there, and we see The Big Short is in there. These are not perfect labels, by the way. Don't come after me. I just, sort of put it together. However, just for the purpose of a contrived example. And so, okay, greed. We have two movies. Let's say greed and finance. Probably The Big Short, right? Let's say greed and systemic failure, also The Big Short. Perhaps if we go greed and inequality, maybe The Parasite comes up. That's sort of the movie's classification in this database. So that helped. Sure, classification, but a bit more deeper on classification topic. Well, then, let's say jump past 2,000, 3,000 years, we get computers. We can now do digital searches. We can do exact string matching. I know the name, and even though the database is like 50 million entries, I could find it very easily. It may take the computer room a few days to figure it out. So I have string matching. Let's say I want to look for a movie that is talking about shooting. Is there a movie like that? Sorry, shooting. There isn't. Maybe there's guns involved. Maybe there is revenge involved. Okay, revenge. Kill Bill has it. Mission Impossible has it. Sure. But you saw as I was typing, I was trying to type a word, but it wasn't quite working, and misspellings were not factored in. So if I say revenge, it doesn't really work. Well, this is pretty idiotic. Like, it's a computer; it should be able to figure out something as simple as that. And certainly for a while, this was the norm. But even as far back as 60s, in fact, a lot of stuff happens in the 60s, computers-wise. The idea of edit distance gets introduced, which is called Levenshtein distance by Vladimir Levenshtein. And the idea there is you can make typos, because people, of course, started to type in search items on computers, and this problem is now more prevalent than ever. And so now you can say, if I'm looking for, let's say, tension. Okay, well, even though I made a mistake in typing, I can see that it still matched it, right? It didn't just say, or if I say tension, right, let's say, whatever. So the idea is now you're able to make some errors. The UX is much more friendly, and you get to access information that you may even have a misunderstanding about the spelling, or simply made a mistake during typing, or perhaps much more common, the data set itself is flawed. Someone may have made an entry that is incorrectly, entered. So over time, then people are like, okay, this is all great. Can we combine different elements together? So Boolean search comes around the same time, 65 or 75 or so on. And the idea there is, okay, well, I'm going to give you multiple pieces of information about the thing that I'm looking for, and I want you to find the exact specific thing that I have in mind. So this might be this thing and that thing and that thing. If it matches it, that's my criteria. So I'm going to say, I'm looking for a movie that is kind of poetic. Okay, I see two options, Arrival and Network. Well, actually, I'm looking for something that is a dark comedy. Oh, network, great, right? So now you have two different vectors that you've applied, or two different pieces of information that you're using together. You could, of course, do not, I want this, that is not that, but, hey, I built this whole thing in 3 days, so excuse me for not building that in. So, all right. Moving forward from that, we then get people, doing all this stuff and finding it still is making us look for exactly the information. And unless we know the data set, unless we know what values are there, what genres are there, what names are even there, and what descriptions might contain the words, if we don't have the exact word, let's say there's a word called global, global is in here. But if we say world, world is also in there, doesn't matter. We won't really find exactly the thing unless the word is in there in the data set. So people start to figure out what are ways in which we could go beyond just the exact keyword matching. And by the way, they made a lot of progress on the keyword matching stuff. There's an algorithm called TF-IDF, which is an effort to say, hey, if there's certain words that are represented in a given description, more often than not, and if they're also common everywhere else, like the or and so on, ignore them. The words that are uncommon, prioritize them. And this way, you can really search large data sets much faster than having to literally string match one by one, constant search time. Go much faster. But even with all that stuff in BM25, another algorithm, evolution of TF-IDF, people couldn't get quite past the feeling that we could have a better mapping of words, sentences, etc. That's when semantic search comes in, embeddings comes in. I'll do like a little bit of visualization to show you how they work as well. But first, a demonstration. So same data set, right? But now I can say, you know what, I'm looking for, I have to think of examples. I forgot all the examples I had in mind. Let's say a movie about, I don't know, some guy on Wall Street making a lot of money. Okay, I'm gonna hit it. It did not do a good job. This engine is not very good. Forgive me for that. Let's say, I don't know, identity crisis. No, it doesn't really show born identity. Okay, this whole thing is a joke. Doesn't matter. The thing works. I don't have that in the information in this data set. But let's say a movie with a time loop where aliens invade and there's a big war going on. Okay, what the fuck's going on? Something go wrong with my search? Doesn't matter. Something must certainly have gone wrong because it wasn't this bad before. Point is, semantic search will match you the thing that you're looking for, even if the words don't appear in the items themselves. Pretty common aspect. You have seen experienced this stuff now especially in the last few years. Something that I want to mention though. Why am I talking about this stuff? Maybe I'll go about it later because then I'll be upset about it. So embeddings. How does this semantic search actually work? Well, what's happening? The way it's able to match meaning to something that is the same meaning but differently worded is using an embedding model. An embedding model is just like one of those large language models. It's something similar. It's a neural network, and it's trained. There's two steps to it. One is a BERT step, the other is contrastive learning and so on. But the idea is you train a model to be able to first understand language to an extent so that it can just say, generally this means that, or this thing is closer to that. And then you train it to say this concept and that concept are similar. And now fine-tune your weights, fine-tune yourself, so that whenever I give you this string, you put it in a point in space. For now, we're imagining a two-dimensional space. Generally is 3D, 4D, 5D, actually 1,000 dimensions. But that means that now I have a function, now I have an ability to take any concept, any string, any paragraph, any large piece of text, and make a address out of it, make a location in space. And happens to be, the first time I learned about it, and I still don't understand the math of most things, I was like, how the fuck does this work? Like, how can actually a model put two concepts that mean similar things in a similar point in space? This model is frozen. It's not learning anymore. It's learned and it's done. It's just ready for you to use always, frozen in time. Somehow, for this model, if I put this description in, a darkly comedic thriller, class warfare, the Parasite one, it shows up there. But then if I put in Fight Club, it shows up somewhere close to it. If I put as the description of Moon, the movie, somehow it seems to be much farther away. If I put the description of Die Hard, it seems far away from Parasite and the Fight Club, and also far away from this. So it's interesting that it's able to map out. Now this is kind of lacking a little bit in information about what have we really clustered. So I went ahead and actually added colors to this based on the actual genres that we already know. So now you're able to kind of see, oh, you know what? There seems to be already a cluster. The model already seems to have clustered all the dark comedies somewhere on the left, all the action films somewhere together on the right, and all the sci-fi ones somewhere over here. Now it's very hard to get this chart to look right because I'm using something called PCA as a way to reduce the complexity of what this really is from 1,000 dimensions into something that our eyes can understand and our brains can perceive. Certainly now you can really understand that this model is quite good at placing meaning into a point in space. So anyway, we get semantic search. We are able to now, for example, I built this demo to do something fun, but I'm totally blanking out on all the examples. But someone give me an description of a movie that you have in mind.
Interview of an alien.
First interview of an alien. All right, it showed up in the sci-fi area, right? So these are all sci-fi movies. Children of Men, whatever, Arrival, right? Let's say, oh shit, I should have, whatever, doesn't matter. Let's pick another one, I don't know. Let's say man goes around killing people for fun. I don't fucking know. Whatever. Yeah. Also sci-fi. Yeah. I don't really know. I had all these. Okay, it's epic space battle. I don't know. Cool stuff is happening. It is also in the sci-fi cluster, kind of close to action as well. Wow, I'm really forgetting all the examples I had in mind. Doesn't matter. But you get that it's somehow approximately putting this new string that I have in mind into a point in space. Now, how could you use it?
Poem about the brain of an artist.
Movie about the brain of an artist. Okay, this is quite ambiguous. It could be somewhere between this, and this. So I guess that's good enough, like kind of ambiguous where it would be. Would it be...
know if it's a biology brain movie.
Yeah, let's see. Biotech. Okay, you know what? I don't know. But the point is, you can see in this demo that I built things moving and get a better intuition for how your embedding models. One thing I will mention is this example is not great because I only have a very small data set. If you have a lot bigger data set that you have applied PCA to and store what you call eigenvectors, which is how I'm keeping this very stable as I change things, then you will have a better ability to see things actually land where they are. But they don't, and I didn't have the time to make the example more fun. In any case, semantic search, that's how... one thing I want to mention, sorry. Okay, this is some other... So, what's happening here is this. So if, for example, semantic is how would use is, you have something in mind, a movie that you want to watch. Let's say the description of it is... But it's Fight Club, right? You can just say, I want movies like Fight Club. How would recommendation system benefit from this? It will say simply, find this movie's address in that point in latent space. Then walk around... Get your nearest neighbors, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe this one as well, and get this back to me. Those could be the recommendations.
What's latent space?
So latent space is the idea. I don't have an official meaning of it, but the idea is that high dimensional space where these embeddings are being these vectors. Put those concepts to be, that you can call latent space. You can also use latent space as a concept in large language models, where you say within the weights, the multiplication is happening and changing the vectors, the LLM's response to this or that. You generally can refer to the internal representation that the model has as latent space.
I'm going to think of it as like the dream space of an AI, like all the things that are possible in reality, but that maybe haven't been done yet, the inner brain possibility space of an AI.
Honestly, that's a really great way of thinking about it, and I find more intuition for that when you're talking about visual models, diffusion models, like Stable Diffusion. There, it's a lot more obvious because you can literally, and this is the coolest thing ever, when Stable Diffusion was open sourced, you had videos of people talking about how you can simply do array multiplication, and you have like a picture of a ship flying in space, let's say, and you do array multiplication towards a certain direction, and you'll see the ship transform into a plane or something, or you'll see the sky turn into rain or something. So this is like just math, using math as a way to change the picture. And so there it was a lot more obvious that you were actually navigating latent space. In this case, you can do it. There's like ways to visualize it. I have a different talk that I've done about how language models work, and there I talk about it. I think I've talked about this too much, so I'm going to move on to the next part, which is after. Maybe like a bit more. So after all this time, all this research, we have semantic search, we have agentic search as well. We can ask a language model to find stuff, and if it doesn't get right, we can give it feedback, etc. It still sucks. Many reasons. Few that I want to get into. Search engine optimization. The worst fucking thing I can think of. In the last 15 years, Google's monopoly and a bunch of other companies, but certainly Google's monopoly, has allowed them to simply dictate whims on what they feel is representable, what they feel should be. I personally am wondering, like, what happened? Like, at what point, because I wasn't there for it, I certainly, who allowed a private index to be the de facto thing? Like, a private index for the open web? What a brilliant idea. Who the fuck did that? Like I wasn't there to invent it. I'm still not there to invent it. I barely do anything. But what the fuck? Like the de facto index is a private thing, and it'll have ads and it'll have its own profit motives, and that's okay with people. Like no one's even fighting it. You don't see every year a new thing trying to fight it. No, a private index. Brilliant idea, guys. So. Next thing is lack of multimodal. This one I can't really blame on anyone. It's getting better now though, which is over the last 10 years especially, because it used to be much better search and the open web existed. A lot of the data now is videos, TikTok videos, YouTube videos, images that perhaps are hard to transcribe, etc., or caption, etc. And as a result, all that piece of information is still buried somewhere in some person's channel, cannot access it. The information is there. We simply don't have access to it because no one's built a proper enough index around it. Next thing, this one really pisses me off, is open communities have gone to shit because of policies that these private companies that somehow ran these supposedly open public spheres have chosen to do. For example, Reddit, which pretty much everyone can generally in the last 15 years have assumed it's like a public sphere. You go there, you share knowledge, you learn. Did anyone ever think when you were using Reddit, it feels really nice to make another dollar for the CEO of Reddit? No, you were thinking I really love this topic. I'm engaging with the people around this who are also engaged in this. I'm learning from them. I'm going to probably contribute here as opposed to publishing a book about it. These are the feelings that people had as they were talking on Reddit, and yet they closed their API. Now OpenAI and Google made $70-60 billion deals, and now they get to only scrape, and their model are the only ones that get to have the knowledge that most people using it consider to be public knowledge that they're contributing openly. They don't feel like they're only contributing to a private pool. So there's that API lockdown. Same thing happened with Twitter. Don't even get me started on Twitter. But like $40,000 per month for their API. So pretty much like a no. And similarly, decline of open source, open forums, which is like Reddit and so on could be considered that. But also there used to be so many real open forums 20 years ago, and now you have things like Discord, things like Slack, where even open source projects, local Llama, a bunch of different just communities have Discords now, and Stable Diffusion has a Discord. So you're doing all your conversations on Discord, non-scrapable, non-indexable. People are talking there, and those things just vanish. So this means that people are still willing in this current moment to contribute openly, to share the things that they care about, to share knowledge, to answer people's questions. It just does not end up in a public space that I can find. What that means is gatekeeping, not necessarily gatekeeping in this sense, there's a different word for it, but it means that if you are someone who's looking for that information and you're not an insider, if you don't know where to look, if you're not part of that given Discord, if you're not part of that given community on Slack or on WhatsApp or whatever it may be, you simply cannot find that information. So that information is opaque to you, even though the people in that community, 100,000 person community has Stable Diffusion. Do you think those people are caring about privacy of the knowledge they're sharing? No, they actually want to contribute publicly. It just happens to be that the medium is broken, right? So many things and more contribute to this decline in the quality of search, because nothing is now publicly indexable, and even if it was, the index itself is private and they have goals are motivated. As I looked into this topic more and more, the theme that emerged was that things were not this bad. They didn't have to be this bad. They became this bad because of choices that people made. And information is the key thing here. Information that people want to share, knowledge that people want to share, that could be ending up in a public index that doesn't anymore because of many reasons. Stack Overflow, no one goes to anymore because they go to a private model whose queries always remain private, etc. And one person that I found inspiration from as I was looking into, who had a clarity of vision about these things that like no other, was Aaron Swartz, whose words have been behind the slide, and you can look into it. This is his manifesto, the Guerilla Open Access Manifesto, and he talks about in complete clarity what we should be doing if you care about this mission of open access to knowledge. And if you know the story of Aaron Swartz, he was hounded for downloading a bunch of information off of JSTOR, which is an MIT archive, which was, from what I understood from researching a bit more, an open network. He just went over the limits, but they made it sound like he ended up doing a crime, and then they pursued him for 2 years, tried to jail him for 35 years, and then he killed himself. So that's just one person, but his clarity of purpose and his contributions to making RSS, to a bunch of other things, are significant. So anyway, I felt like as I was doing this talk, I sort of got really nervous. I was like, you know what? I feel like it's much bigger than me. It's much bigger than this thing. It's even much bigger than semantic search. There's real things broken in the heart of search, and it'll take our efforts to fix it. Thank you.
What's the main thing you wanted to share with people tonight?
Initially, I wanted to talk about, honestly, agentic search, semantic search, something that I didn't even get to. But as I went deeper into the topic, I realized much more important, at least to this audience, talking about how things work, which is cool. You'll be curious enough and find it, and you can just bug me or Google, any kind of forum online. The more important thing was to kind of just remind people of the reality of where we are right now, which is everything is getting more and more closed. And unless we actively participate in the communities that we build being more open, the software that we build having different values, etc., we will continue to go down this road. It's not like you don't just get it for free. It's like the price of freedom or something.
that's my first question is you do get it for free, and that's how they made the public web a private index, is they gave us a lot of fucking utility for free. They gave us Gmail, Gcal, Google Drive, all these things, right? And we slurped that shit up. And then we end up with, private company owning the index of the whole public internet. So for all of us like normals, how do you square that circle, man? That's how they ended up where they're at. Like, we all still want Gmail, Gcal, Google Drive, all that kind of shit. So how do we balance that equation? We can't all run those things on our own servers at home.
I mean, the ultimate question is like, what are the alternatives? And if you're willing to put the care in, put the effort in to actually create the alternative, right? It's not like I've created a social network that's open source and
Kush made his own Photoshop.
I make stuff and that I can use in a very hacky, shitty way. And if I can make it useful enough, then I can share with people, and that's kind of my approach. But certainly, I'm not solving the problem. So I do think that there is this philosophy that I've adopted like a while ago now, which is that generally I had this character thing where, like, if I can't fix it, I'm not going to complain about it. It's a long time ago. I changed that completely. Doesn't matter if I can't fix it. If I see it wrong, I gotta note it, right? Yeah. And so I think the solution to that.
I'm an anarchist, and they tell me that I'm wrong because I don't have the solution to what comes next. And I'm like, I don't need to have the solution. My job is to say, this is fucked, burn it down. And then you guys' job is to find the solution. So go ahead and keep critiquing the stuff that...
And I try in a little bit of like trying to educate, be like, well, here's how you could try and build a system. But I certainly am not the kind of person who wants to get some VC money, fuck around and like make another thing that again ends up being a purchased private bot thing. And I certainly don't have the resources to get a big farm together to produce and serve a server like this. And I just don't have this faith in the current sort of incumbents of the current people, in places of authority to do the right thing if I do approach them from a non-profit, from a not profit motivated motive. Please.
Yeah, so I have a question for you. So if we go hit back, I'm James Rowe. I'm from Circles of AI. All right. So my question is about lessons from history. So before digital, all knowledge was in books. Books were traditionally controlled by elites, but eventually the governments opened up libraries, and that knowledge was made publicly available. Are there lessons to be drawn from this?
I mean, I think that's sort of the trend of information become more and more accessible over time, and we kind of saw some of the peak of that trend in the last, let's say 10 years ago or whatever. People really getting the ability to, and then actively sharing information on those forums, and then it became sort of a regression from it. I definitely agree, like that's how the past has been. Information was kind of the domain of the people who were the priests or whatever, and everyone else can go pound sand. But over time, we had more ability to share and more ability to learn. I'm not saying it's a given default. It is, in fact, isn't. The default is that people find... actually, the default is not that people find that they want to keep things private. The default is that the people in power find that they like power, and so they keep it. I don't find the general person to want to actually attain more power. This is not really a trend that I've seen.
Well, and one of the things that came up for me around the lockdown APIs Reddit thing is like, it really sucks if you're contributing to what you think is one type of community and they lock it all down and you can't access it anymore. That's fucking cheating, right? Like,
who thinks about that? Does anyone really ever truly think when they're on Reddit that, actually this is not public? Like there's 3 people who are going to read this comment.
It's not public, but you're contributing to their proprietary data set goldmine that they're going to exploit the fuck out of. Like, you're actually enriching them. It's not just that you lost access to using it yourself via your own software.
That was exactly the last thing that I skipped, which is that closed source AI. That's why I keep going on about it, because I don't find that open source or closed source things in AI same as in software. It's about information, actually. Closed source AI is like literally information being locked down, because an open source model is trillions of tokens or hundreds of gigabytes or whatever of information compressed, and in compressed form such that it can even answer questions in an instruct model. That is massively useful. Imagine, so all the information that now ChatGPT gets because of all the people going to that model, or Anthropic gets because people are going to that model, as opposed to Stack Overflow, was the same people who were using Stack Overflow before. So it's not like the field of software engineering disappeared. It's that the entire information was now going into a hole. Same as Reddit, people are still using it actively. There's not like, I know plenty of communities that have strike and they went dark and so on, but plenty of people are still using it like it's still a thing, and that information will never see light of day in an open source model, and it'll just be in a closed source. And then people wonder, how come a closed source company are frontier? Yeah, they definitely have. It's because of smarter scientists.
Yeah. We have time for one more question for Kush. Nils has one. Does anyone else have one? I was going to do battle royal. I was going to make you figure out who wanted to ask the question more.
So yesterday, for some of the Web Summit attendees, we had a speech by the CEO of Blue Sky, who's kind of creating an open source social media platform where other people, it seems very counter to what some of the other things are doing. I was wondering if you've looked into Blue Sky at all, and maybe what your take is on what they're doing. Are they actually trying to combat this, or is that just marketing?
Yeah, so I mean, this is actually one of the questions that's harder for me to answer because, yes, I know a bunch of people around me who are using Blue Sky, even as developers, and some of the protocols around them, and how to use the Firehose to create your own apps, etc. But I myself have not really engaged with it as much because it's like, I'll tell you this, I am not like a smart person. I'm almost certainly like not smart enough to figure out enough things. What I find is I try to train my bullshit sense, kind of like being inspired from
skills
from George Carlin, sort of tradition. Is like I don't need to know everything to sort of try and suss out the bad actors or people that are cynical about these things. And I just don't have a general inclination to lean in fully into something that came out of a CEO that already built a different kind of world, did not put it into action. They say that, yeah, we built this protocol at Twitter because we wanted to put it into production. Okay, what took you so long? What happened? Oh, and then you sold the company? That was okay with you? So there's so many things that they say, yeah. It's kind of like, when Google brought Project Ara, it was called, there was a video. I'll never forget this. There was a video, I inspired the shit out of me. I was studying industrial design at the time, phone blocks. It was this guy talking about a modular phone, and it was going to be, this is a pretty big digression, but modular phone that you could switch out the camera, switch out the screen, awesome stuff. And Google's like, oh, we're going to hire the guy. We're going to make this product. They hire the guy. Everyone's very inspired. They call it Project Ara. They shut it down 2 years later. No one will ever attempt it again. For all I know, it's because of, some kind of rights or IP stuff that they made happen. But I don't see anyone trying that stuff again. Is it because that idea is shit? Is it because everyone learned that lesson that modular phones are not a thing? No, it's because this is what happens. I just don't buy that an entity that made billions, trillions, that thrive off of being private is going to suddenly produce something that is open source. Doesn't mean the people working there don't have those values. I'm just not going to lean into that. It's a protocol. There's sure hundreds more. Yeah.
Thank you, Kushal. We appreciate it, man. I encourage you to check out his YouTube channel. He's got a lot of great videos that he's made explaining this stuff that he then went and edited in an open source video editor tool that he created himself from scratch. So he's the real deal. Thanks, Kush. Seriously, bro. Yeah.